你好。好，差不多。这个星期我们要讲动物。有很多的汉字是跟动物有关系。我们都要思考，汉字是可能是5000年以前开始制造，所以他们那个时候的生活是很简单的。We want to keep thinking that Chinese characters were invented around 5,000 years ago. So life was very simple back then. So there are many characters that are related to animals. So today we're going to talk about some characters related to snakes. So here's a video. 会看到，好。Today we are going to talk about snakes. Totem is an Ojibwe word. Ojibwe, or Chippewa, is a tribe of Indians that lived in the southeast Canada. In ancient times, groups of people associated their tribe with various animals. It was believed that the tribe had some kind of connection to the spirit of the animal. This idea carries over into modern times. Chinese call themselves the children of the dragon. Americans have a strong attachment to the eagle. This attachment to animals is called a totem and is very prevalent in ancient times. The Chinese totem is the dragon. So what is the dragon? This is the pig-headed dragon unearthed from the Hongshan cultural site. It is the earliest dragon-shaped jade article discovered in China, which is believed to be about 10,000 years old. It has the body of a snake, the nose of a pig, and flowing bristles. We can see that this is a species that does not actually exist. After continuous additions and imaginations by later generations, it is now believed that a dragon has a body of a snake and scales of a fish and horns of a deer and the head of a camel and the eyes of a rabbit and the claws of an eagle. Snake. The Chinese character we are talking about today has always been an important part of Chinese totems and an important part of the ancient Chinese characters. There are many kinds of snakes. Some are poisonous, some are not. There are a number of ways that snakes may appear in ancient Chinese and several modern dictionaries as a result. One clue is the 4 variants of the character for snake, she, which originally consisted of 2 snakes. She and she are 2 snake mutants. She also means snake. She also means snake. The original pictograph of snake was 2 snakes. They were different. Probably one represented a poison snake and the other was not. This character is subject to variant elimination rule C519. Remember, most insects begin as grubs or caterpillars, so this is evidence. There are 5 building blocks to be found in these 4 varieties of snakes, all of which represent snakes. They are Chong, Si, Ta, Ye, and Yu. Snake number 1, Chong and Quin. Notice that in the character for snake, we have the character Chong, which now means insect. Insect Chong and worm Chong are 2 Chinese characters. The worm character used to be pronounced hui, and the pictogram is of a poisonous snake. It was originally a snake. Chong now means insect or bug in most cases, subject to the simplification rule B016. It later came to represent any small, undesirable animal, but mainly insects. For example, insects, kunchong, and pests, haichong. In ancient Chinese or modern dialects, snakes are still called big worms, dachong, or long worms, changchong. Quin also means insects, from two snakes, chong. Note that they are the same kind of snake. It was changed to the pictophonetic character quin. Quin is a pictophonetic, and now we have the word quinchong, which means insects. Quin is a phonetic, and insect is the semantic component. Quin has the basic meaning of together, but it becomes a substitution for quin and comes to mean insects. So now we have these several ways to write quinchong, which means insect in modern Chinese. But the actual character comes from quin, which comes from quin. You may think that one insect, chong, two insects, quin, and three insects, chong, is a bit boring. But there are many similar cases in Chinese, such as one person, ren, and two persons, chong, or two persons, bi, and three persons, zhong. These are also very commonly used characters. Snake number 2, ta. Ta means it. It is also assumed to be a rendition of some kind of snake. The spoken syllable ta means he, she, or it in spoken Chinese, but there are several different characters that differentiate between the different concepts in written Chinese. Ta means it when referring to an animal. It is subject to the variant elimination rule C562. Ta means he when referring to God. Ta means he or she if we are talking about humans, but not when referring to animals. Ta, more specifically, means she. Modern renditions of the Showan say yeah is a phonetic, but if you look carefully, it actually comes from ta. Tuo means to drag, from the left hand shou and remnant si, from the phonetic snake, ta. It is subject to the variant elimination rule C586. Tuo, or variant tuo, means camel, from a horse, ma, and the phonetic snake, ta. It is subject to the elimination rule C585. Tuo bei means humpbacked, and lo tuo means camel. Snake number 3, yeah. Yeah now means also or it is so, a classical final particle. It is generally accepted that it is kind of a snake and was originally borrowed for its sound to mean also. It is a common final particle, kind of like a period. Yeah is a phonetic in chi, which means pool, and chi, which means an unstrung bow, and chi, which means to go quickly, and also in shi, which means to act. Snake number 4, si, shi, and chi. Si, in its standalone form, refers to a tribe of people in southern China. It is a relatively new character. It is first seen in the Kangxi Dictionary and has no ancient form. It is a component in several characters, but is almost always derived from ta or ye. It has no seal form. We can assume it is a snake also because it is found in the character shi. Shi was originally a kind of flag, but now means to act. It comes from flag, yan, and not from feng, and phonetic ye, which means snake. The flag of these people probably had something to do with snakes. It is the actual origin of the following characters. Shi, from chi, means to crack open the abdomen. It comes from the remnant yue, which comes from ribs, ro, and the snake ethnic group si. It is a distortion of chi. Snake number 5, yu and yu. Yu is a legendary founder of the Xia dynasty. It is also derived from a snake and something that looks like a hand, probably from someone who could handle snakes. Yu now means a district or a mountain name in Zhejiang province. It appears to be a snake and a hand, probably originally referring to some people who worshipped snakes. O means an idol. It is probably the original meaning of the character yu. Wan means 10,000. Wan is the character for 10,000. It does not have anything to do with a snake, but it looks like it does. So I included it here. It comes from a pictograph of a scorpion, which was pronounced wan. The modern word for scorpion is xie. On several characters, you see rou. Rou is not really a character, but Shu Shen thought it was. He thought it was the butt and tail of an animal. There are several characters like this, but when we found access to earlier archaeological artifacts, we found out that it was not really a character, just something Shu Shen imagined. In this and other cases, it appears to be a hand grabbing the animal by its rear end. Wan is the simplified version of the character. In conclusion, snakes were worshipped by the Chinese in ancient times, as well as dragons and various myths and legends. There are 4 variants for the character for snake, shi, 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 and shi, which originally consisted of 2 different kinds of snakes. Good.
你要先结束录制吗？还是直接放图片？
这个直接放图片。
直接放图片。好的。我来。
OK， 这个我刚刚说的是，可能你觉得是非常复杂 ，very 复杂。所以我慢慢跟你讲。大概以后我要做的一些图片比较简单的，这个很复杂。So you probably think this is very complicated, but we'll go through one at a time, and it won't be so complicated. So here's a picture. This is one of the earliest dragons we have. It's some people say it's 10,000 years old, and we have a new dragon. And we have dragons in the West too. So 我们看几个社的汉字. And we will look at, there are several versions of the character for snake. The first version, probably most of you know. And it has a insect on the left-hand side. The insect originally was a snake. In most characters today, when you see a chong on the side, it usually has something to do with some kind of insect. There are several exceptions that indicate that it was originally a snake. So let's look at the components. 我们可以看那个构件，那个常用的那个蛇是有一个它，这个是现在的这个它是意思是 it， 然后有一个蛇是旁边有一个也，我们常常看这个构件就是一个也有的也，或是一个后面的最后一个字是说停止了。有的时候我们看第三个蛇，然后第四个蛇，我们在右边可以看到一个鱼，我们可以一个一个说明。那个 Rule 519 if you see a rule with a C on it, it means when they simplified Chinese, they decided you were supposed to use the first example and not the second example. The second example is a traditional character. So you can look at them and at least think about the two examples. One is traditional, one is simplified. And we see the seal character, and note the chong and the other kind of snake. 有没有问题？有没有人有问题？有没有人有意见？你们可以讲话。
没有老师。
好，你们都知道社这个字是不是？
知道老师。不知道他的故事，刚刚知道。
知道了。
So here we have a chong. 现在我们有两个字，我们看那个 Rule B016。以前的时候，繁体字，我们有一个chong或是三个chong，它们是差不多一样的意思。古代的时候，一个chong读会，然后它是代表一个社。你可以看那个繁体字的社，你可以看现在的那个chong，然后繁体字的chong，经文的chong，甲骨文的chong，他们一步一步的到最早的甲骨文，你可以看越来越像一个社。So we have, in modern Chinese, we have the character Quin Chong, which means insects. And let's see. Okay, we have Quin Chong and Hai Chong, and Da Chong means snake in some dialects, and Chang Chong means snake in some dialects. So this is evidence that the character originally meant snake. Now it usually means an insect. 现在现代的中文，我们有一个字叫昆虫，昆虫这是 insects。现在的那个简体字是有一个括号，你们可能看过这个字。可是我们写一个汉字，可能有的时候有好几个不同的写法。然后，如果我们看它的历史，我们可以更理解汉字的逻辑跟汉字的来源。现在我们看两个虫，那个两个虫读鲲，现在很少看这个字，你们可能大部分的人没有看过。然后so in modern Chinese, we have words. Words are combinations of characters. And in modern Chinese, we have the word 昆虫, which means insects. But frequently in history, we have several different ways to write a word. In this example, the modern simplified way, I have parentheses, 昆虫, but they come from several more ancient or older characters. So we have a character Quin with two insects. You probably won't see this character in modern Chinese very often. 所以现在汉字的最近的2000年，他们会有一个演变。有的时候2000年以前的，我们有一个汉字，可能现在不用。那个第一个字两个虫，这个是一个会意字。会意 means combination。第二个字是一个形声字，一个 pictophonetic。他们把那个有一个字读本来读鲲，然后这个是两个人在一起的，然后他们做一个新的字，第二个字叫鲲，这是一个虫，是表意符号，然后鲲这是表音符号。So in Chinese, the characters we've used over the past 2,000 years have changed. In ancient Chinese, we used more characters like the first character. It's called a hui yi zi, or combination character. It's two snakes or two insects. And very often we change this kind of character to a pictophonetic, like the one in the middle, where we have an insect and a phonetic. Originally, that phonetic meant together. On the bottom, we have two people, and on the top, we have a sun. So in the past 2,000 years, we've gone from two snakes to a pictophonetic to the character Quin, which used to mean together, but now it means insects. So this is the evolution that happens in a number of characters. So 最早的我们有那个右边的下面的那个昆虫，然后我们变成左边的下面的昆虫，然后变成上面的右边的昆虫，然后简体字就是那个括号的昆虫。So we can see the evolution of the word 昆虫 over the past 2,000 years. If you begin to read traditional Chinese and older traditional Chinese, you will see characters maybe that you don't know, but if you think about the logic you can frequently figure them out. 现在有没有问题？有没有意见？ Anybody have any questions or
暂时没
comment?
有，老师。
没有。So you can tell that snakes were important to the ancient Chinese. And 有的时候我们有汉字，有的时候有一个、两个、三个，这个会有不同的意思。这个穷本来读会，本来是个蛇，有两个读困，三个读穷。可是这个不是特别的。我们也有一个字读人，然后从就是两个人，就是从以前的时候一个人在另外一个人的后面，另外一个是比，就是两个人，我们比较两个人，然后第三个是囧，三个人，就是很多的人。So we also have a pattern in Chinese where we may have one simple character and then we have another character with two or even three of the same character. This is not unusual. Now, in classical Chinese, when we say he or she or it, we usually use a different character called she, but originally this character ta was only used for animals. And sometime a little bit later, they invented a character for humans. The second character you see, it means either him or her. And this character is pronounced ta. It's a phonetic. When you put a 人字旁，你放一个人字旁，它是一个标音符号。人是一个标音符号。可是不知道什么时候，有几百年以前，这个它是变成 yeah， 然后你现在看呢，有不同的它，它们都是错的。The characters you see now have a yeah on the side, and they're all wrong. Chinese will tell me they're not wrong, but they got changed somewhere along the way. The ta and the yeah were very close, but all of these characters were originally ta, and ta is a phonetic. So there was a kind of snake pronounced ta. It was probably a poison snake. And 原来的这些四个字都是本来有它，现在有四个字。你看，有一个有人字旁，本来是 he 或是 she， 然后后来他们发生有分别，所以他们有的是放一个女字旁，就是 she。然后如果有一个牛字旁，就是一个动物，就是 it。然后最近的几十年，他们有一个新的汉字，是一个狮字旁，这个是代表上帝，就是 him or him. So you can see the logic. Originally there was only one word and it meant it. And if you're talking about he or she, you used a different character called she. But this was originally a snake, and it's now the phonetic in several characters. And you see rule C562, 本来那个牛字旁的 是塔，可是他们简化汉字，他们开始用那个古代的塔。When they simplified Chinese, the traditional character usually has for it, usually has a cow and a ye, but they simplified it to the ancient character ta. In any case, they're all snakes. But this snake was pronounced ta. And here, 我们有一个标音符号，在不同的字，他们会有不同的读法。它跟托，他们很靠近，所以我们可以说他们是本来是同一个读音。你看那个简化汉字，那个它是变成一个奇怪的恶变。The word drag is pronounced tuo, but the phonetic is actually ta, and we can assume that somewhere in the past they were both pronounced the same. Originally, when they simplified the characters, they decided to use this strange character, which is actually wrong. But originally it was a character on the right. So this is a character for drag. There are similar characters. Camel is tuo, lo tuo. The word for camel is lo tuo, but the tuo you see there is the phonetic is actually ta. And also you see this strange character that. So the Chinese confused several characters, and so you have multiple versions of the same thing. We also have tuo bei, which means a humpback. And you can analyze the character for camel. The camel looks something like a horse. So you have two characters, lo and tuo. It's a horse with a hump. And 好，有没有意见？今天的课是有一点复杂，不是像那个天文学的那么复杂，可是今天的课有很多的要思考的。Any comments about camels or any comments about camels or
老师，那个陀阿弥陀佛的陀怎么？我可以在这里写吗？这个
可以。我不知道你会这个陀，这个也是他。所以
那它的意思是一样的吗？
这个是这个字本来是一个标音符号，在阿弥陀佛的陀，它是一个标音符号。可是所以它就是说一个人的名字。如果我们看我们分析那个字，我们可以看右边的是他，所以托这个是一个标音符号。然后如果那个左边的耳朵旁，如果我们看那个左边的耳朵旁，这个是一个墙壁。If we look at the character in the case of Amitofu, it's a phonetic, and it indicates the name of, it's a person's name, I think. It's Amito, I forget the guy's name. It's from Sanskrit. It's one of the Anyway, it's a transliteration of Sanskrit. But if you look at the character, it has a ta on the side, so it's a phonetic, which became pronounced to, and it has a 周边的耳朵. Okay, we have, let me see.
这个要先结束共享。
Yeah.
对。
So 现在可以看啊。
就挪到这个上面，这样就可以看了啊。
So here's, you see that the to, if you look at the seal character and the bronze character and the modern character, they're actually three. The seal character is actually wrong, and the bronze character is actually the ta. And if you see 那个周边的那个东西，我们常常说是一个周边的耳朵旁。The thing you see on the left, in Chinese, we often say that it's a left-hand ear, or 左耳旁, because it looks like an ear. But it actually comes from a wall, 一个墙壁. If you turn it like this,
能。sorry， 打开。
哦，不能，
这样可以，这样可以，这样可以。
这个不可以。
横着。
这个不可以。
OK。
如果看这样子的，我不能改变。可是那个周边的那个东西是一个符，这个是一个墙壁。The thing on the left is a wall, and if you turn it sideways, you can see that it's a wall. It's a wall with some fortified places. If you see this on the left-hand side of any character, it means it was originally a place name. 所以阿弥陀佛 originally 本来是一个地方的名字，然后他用了是在翻译那个梵文是 Sanskrit，或是 Pali，所以南无阿弥陀佛。我们这边有没有人相信佛教？
相信还是信老师？
信，有没有人信佛教？
有，我
有好，所以有的时候我们可以讲佛教的。你是哪一省？你是什么地方的？
印度尼西亚。
印度尼西亚。你在家里讲什么话？讲潮州话？
闽南语。
闽南语。对，在中国，信佛教的人大部分是闽南人。In China, in Southeast Asia, we have many Buddhists. In China, most Buddhists are from Fujian or Taiwan, and most Buddhists speak Mingnanhua. The kind of Buddhism you find in the rest of China is very Chinese. It's more kind of distorted Buddhism. And in Xizang, in Tibet, you find a special kind of Buddhism. Yeah, maybe we can talk about Buddhism. 好。所以这个不是他，这个是叶。
对。
写错了。这个独体字读叶，它的意思是 also。在传统的中文，这个可能是最后一个 一个字是好像一个 period 一样，我们常常说什么什么也。So this character you see here is supposed to be pronounced yeah. I wrote it wrongly here. But whenever you see it in an actual character, it's usually pronounced 吃. So it's a 表音符号. If you see it alone, it means also, or if at the end of a sentence, it's like a period in classical Chinese. 我们这边有几个字，有4个字，一个是吃，你可以看那个水字旁，吃是一个 pool， 所以这个是一个形声字。可是在这边那个也是读吃，所以你怎么知道什么是对的？也应该读也，或是应该读吃？因为我们可以看很多的字，有一些其他的字也是读吃或是食。一个 unstrung bow， 这个也是读吃，所以这个有2个字，我们可以差不多确定原来的也这个字应该读吃。然后有另外一个字是有马字旁的，也读吃，所以我们差不多可以确定这个本来是读吃。然后这个是，我们看这个字，等一会儿我们看比较清楚了。这个不是一个方字旁，可是等一会儿我给你看，你可以看比较清楚。然后你看那个转体字，这个蛇跟它那个蛇是不一样的。So you see that this character, it's a different kind of snake than ta. You look at the seal character, and when you see it alone, it's pronounced yeah. But we have several characters here that are pronounced chi. So we can assume that originally it was pronounced chi. Chi means pool with a water on the side. Chi means an unstrung bow with a bow on the side. And chi means to go quickly. And you see a horse here. And horses go quickly. And then you have this character shi, which I think will be explained better in the next. Shi is originally a kind of flag. And when everybody looks at this, they think, oh, there's a fang zipang. They think that the thing on the side is a fang, but actually it's a character yen. And the fang and that part on top are part of the same character. So actually you have a ye here, and it's pronounced shi. So ye is the phonetic. 我们看这个字，很多的人看一个方字旁，可是这个不是一个方字旁，因为上面有一个一撇一横，这个是一个特别的字，这个字读言，言是一个过去的意思。The yen originally meant a flag. And so you have a flag with a snake. And so these people probably worshipped snakes or something like that. You have the word Si, which is a tribe of people in southern China. And you have the word Shi. 这个字是一个恶变，本来是一个叶字旁，吃这个是合理的。后来他们放那个恶变，他们放那个一撇一横的在上面，所以这个是一个乱七八糟的字。 这个我们有一个非常有名的中国人，他叫Yu the Great. He was the founder of the Shah dynasty. But if we look at the character, we see that it's derived from a snake, or appears to be derived from a snake. 然后在下面那个是什么东西？大概是一个手，所以这个人或是他可能会拿蛇。可是这个字就是一个人的名字，鱼。在下面你可以看一个构件，这个构件你可以看在一些不同的字。有另外一个是鱼，这个是一个地方的名字，可是你们可能认识这个呕吐的呕，这是个人字旁一个鱼。然后最后我说这个词，这个是丸，这个不是一个蛇的来源，可是它的上面看得出来好像一个蛇。It looks like a snake, so I put it here. And it also has the same part as the two yu characters. It looks like a hand, maybe grabbing the insect. But 你可以看这个右边的那个手腕这字，它以为这个是一个构件，它以为是就是一个动物的屁股，可是我们发现，后来我们看那个考古学的，我们发现不是。So, Shu Shen, who wrote the Showan about 2,000 years ago, he thought that this was the rear end of an animal and a tail, but it turned out he was wrong because in archaeology, we have discovered more ancient characters, so we can show that he's wrong. So, 现在我讲完了这些蛇，我们要聊天，你们可以说你的意见，或者说我们可以休息。
老师，是不是中国人喜欢龙？为什么有很多字说充实？
龙。The second half, the second video, I will talk about long. Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break. And 再过10分钟，我们继续例子，我们开始。
OK。
好，回来。你们都回来了吗？
在老师。
好。
回来了，老师。
好。所以现在我们看第二个视频，也是关于蛇。Let's continue to talk about some Chinese characters related to snakes. Snake number 6, rainbow, Hong. Hong, the oracle bone character for rainbow, was a two-headed snake because a rainbow resembled a two-headed snake. Modern character comes from insect snake Chong, which represents the original two-headed snake, and the phonetic gong, which represents the sound. Note the G to H transition is common in many languages. Hong was an alternate form of rainbow. It meant the heavenly snake. It comes from the insect or snake Chong and lightning Shen, which also meant God. Snake number 7, Shu. Shu is a remnant which indicates a caterpillar which is kind of like a snake in its shape. You can see the eye, mu, and the remnant bao, which represents the tail. Shu means silkworm, also a place name. It comes from insect, snake, chong, and caterpillar, shu. Shu means a sort or type. It comes from shu, which is a phonetic, but the shu and chong represent two different kinds of snake-like animals, which need to be distinguished, because one may be poison and the other may not. The character, which appears to be a tail, wei, in some cases, is not a tail. It is a person defecating, indicating a type of scat. Scat is a polite term for animal feces. A hunter could tell from the scat what kind of animal it was and what it had been eating and how long ago it had passed. This character is subject to the simplification rule B100. Shu means sort or kind of. It is a simplified form of shu, which took the bottom part and replaced it with yu, which is another kind of snake. Snake number 8. Zao means a louse, from insect chong and fork cha, which indicates something that can bite. Chi means worm, or it also means ignorant or rustic, from the insect chong and the phonetic foot zhi. Snake number 9, chi. Chi means to stretch out. It seems to be indicated by a snake that stretches out and waits to bite someone's foot. Xia means to stretch out. It comes from the right foot, qua, and the left foot, hua, and the remnant fei, which comes from the snake person, yu, which comes from the insect chong. It is considered to be the original snake in the path character, chi. Snake number 10, termite, xie. Xie is an insect or termite. Xie 1 and Xie 2 are considered to be the same character. It is considered to be a termite. Qie means secretly, the same as qie, from the action
这个
pu
是的
and
几点钟？
insect xie.
9点50分。
Xie means secretly. It comes from the cave, xue, indicating inside, and the insect xie, and the remnant gong from the number 20, nian, indicating a large number, and the remnant bian, not cai, from rice, mi. It is subject to the simplification rule A201. Ch, which substitutes the phonetic to cut, che, creating the new character che. It probably indicates a termite within the walls of the house. And bien, or mi, is the termite's eggs. Snake number 11, quin. Quin means insects, from two insects, chong. Wen means mosquito, from two insects, quin, and the phonetic culture or close, wen. It is subject to the variant elimination rule C599. It means mosquito. Chong means insect or insects. From the insects chong, it is subject to simplification rule B016. Quinchong means insects. Snake number 12, dragon, long. Long means dragon. As we track the dragon character back, we first find that the remnant yue from ribs, ro, was added later. The original character is a pictograph of a snake with what appears to be a crown. This is the king of the snakes. In fact, the crown is an upside-down king, Wang, which indicates that it is the king of the snakes. Also see the king of the birds, Feng, which is the male phoenix. The snake was probably originally a cobra. The simplified version is from a supercursive version of the character. 好，我们现在看那个
好，它比较慢，你稍等一下。
等一会儿，现在网络比较慢，
看看1分钟吧。
非常慢，网络有没有问题？好，所以你可以思考，古代的中国人，他们看一个红，一个 rainbow，他们怎么画？他们以为这个红是什么东西？他们古代的人，他们跟动物有非常近的关系，所以他们看一个红，他们可能以为是一种蛇。古代的中国人，他们以为是一个2个头的蛇，所以这个甲骨文你可以看，好像是一个2个头的蛇。So if you're an ancient and you want to draw a picture of a rainbow, you think the ancients were very close to the animals and they didn't know much about science. So they thought of the rainbow as a two-headed snake. And so here you see the oracle character for rainbow. And later they changed it. Remember, I told you that they changed characters to 形声字。所以他们改变了。你可以看周边的虫，可是那个时候读尾，这个是代表是一个蛇，然后旁边有一个弓，弓跟红，这个是一个标音符号，它单独的是读弓，可是在这个字里面是读红。So we have the idea of a rainbow being a snake is conserved. We have a chong on the side, but when it refers to a snake, we usually call it a hui. And then we have a gong on the right-hand side. But when it's used as a phonetic, it often is pronounced hong. When you look at phonetics, they will usually not be the same as the standalone characters. In many languages, we have a transition from a g to a h. In Russian, they say gavarit, which means to talk. And in Ukrainian, they say khavarit, which means to talk. And you often find this transition from g to h in many languages. Giro, geroi. In Russian, we have the word hero, which is geroi, and it gets changed to hero in English. It's the same kind of shift, so a g to a h. When you study Chinese and you look at the phonetics, you'll want to think they're not exact phonetics, but you'll want to think how they get changed. 所以这个是，然后古代的中国人，他们看一个红，这个是另外一个红，是一个神字，一个神字旁， 山就是山巅的来源，所以这个是代表神或是上帝。这个是一个上帝做的，一个神做的一个蛇，所以这个红就是合逻辑的。Another character meaning rainbow is a combination of lightning, which indicates God. In the ancient Chinese, how do you draw a picture of God? Well, you can, in the ancient China, 那我现在
点一下那个，
这个
点一下啊。
对。So, how do you draw a picture of God? Well, in ancient China, we had lightning, which is very mysterious, and so it can represent God. So we have this picture here. It looks like lightning, and it has 两个口。这个口是做声音，所以有闪电的时候，它们会有一个轰。所以有闪电，还有两个口。It's a picture of lightning and the sound of lightning, thunder. Sometimes lightning looks like this, and it has a gong. I just mentioned the g and h, so this is pronounced hong. The lightning makes a sound. And sometimes the lightning comes to look like this. So lightning represents God. And it becomes to look like this. This is Shen. This is 代表上帝。闪电是代表神。这个是闪电。这个是神。这个是红。所以古代的中国人，他们以为一个红就是一个大的蛇，这是代表这是一个神的蛇，heavenly snake. So this is the logic of rainbow. 另外一个字读红。有没有人要说话？有没有问题？有没有想起来别的汉字？好啊。
是有一个同学说坤，扭转乾坤的坤。
坤，对。
乾坤的坤，哦，坤，乾坤的坤。
那个坤，对。
土加一个申。
对，土加一个申。这个。
我给你写下来。
对。
这个字。
对。 这个很难说，可是中国人有一个叫土地公，所以这个是那个地方的那个神，每一个地方都有一个神。In ancient China, they have a god called Tu Di Gong, and they have a character 社会, which is also has to do with the local god. So in ancient China, they believed that every place had a local god. And so often you can use this word to indicate a place name too. Tu means dirt, so it can indicate a place. But you can think about the character and then maybe tell me what you think. Quinn, 你有没有意见？你有没有想法？喂，你跑到哪里？
那个八卦里面就是乾为天，坤为地。
对，坤为地。
对，
So it indicates a land, but in Chinese, there are many cases where the land is associated with the local god. So, but you can think about it and tell me what you think. 我现在在说下一个字，这个你有没有看到？对 ，So 我们看这个一个毛毛虫，有一点像一个蛇，所以你画这个，你看那个甲骨文的那个东西，我们可能说那个可能是一个毛毛虫，也可能是一个蛇。我们现在知道这个鼠，这个是一种毛毛虫的一个 silkworm， 下面是一个蛇，可是它们两个东西是很像，也可能要分别，可能古代的中国人他们不知道这个分别有多大，因为他们是同类的东西。所以we have a caterpillar and a snake. They look very similar. In fact, if you don't know what the word means, you look at the oracle and you don't know if it's a snake or a caterpillar. The second character is a type of caterpillar. It's a silkworm. 第三个字很有意思。我们看上面是有一个人，一个蹲下来，然后他大便。你可以看现代的字读十，这个是一个人，然后他的屁股下来一个东西，好像米，所以这个是大便的意思。So we have a pictograph of a squatting person and something is coming out. And we see the character, the modern character 屎, which means shit, which means defecation. And this character, it means sort or kind. So what does defecation have to do with sort? In ancient times, we had hunters. 古代的时候有很多的人有打猎，然后他们要叫那个动物。如果他们看到那个动物的大便，如果他们看到那个动物的屎，他们会分那个动物是什么样的动物，也可以知道是多久以前来的，也可以慢慢叫那个动物。So when you're hunting an animal, you want to know what kind of animal it is. We can look at the footprints, or we can look at what is called scat. Scat is the feces of animals. And if you're a hunter, you can tell what kind of animal and how long ago the animal came by. So we need to track the animal. And so this character, shu, it has two kinds of snakes, and it has the dabian, or shi, which, if you're a hunter, it basically indicates different kinds of animals. 他们简化这个字是用 b 100，然后他们把这个是的下面的变成一个鱼，这个也是另外一种蛇。So when they simplified it, they changed it to a yu, which indicates that they were probably thinking it's some kind of snake. You want to separate what kind of a snake is it. So every Chinese character is logical if you know how the ancient Chinese thought and what their logic was. 我们看这个一个穷一个差，这个差我们分析一个字，我们分析一个字，有的时候可以知道两三个别的字，所以这个字有一个差，差是一个 fork，这个字读枣，然后它是一个 louse， something that a kind of insect that comes in your hair. Insect that bites you. And 第二个字是吃，上面有一个直，这个是一个标音符号。这个吃就是一个蚯蚓的样子，一个出的样子，可是也是一个没有学问的人，一个土包子。然后我们有这个字在甲骨文，我们可以看一个蛇，然后它的前面有一个角，然后这个现在这个字就是 to stretch out， 因为常常有一个蛇，它要晒太阳，所以它会在路的中间。If you know snakes, sometimes the snakes like to bask in the sun and stretch out and wait to bite your foot. 第二个字下很少看到，可是你可以看三个构件。第一个构件是胯，you can think about that first component. If you see that, it comes from a foot. And the second 胯 also comes from a foot. 这个你可能看这个下这个字，你可能看不清楚，可是以后我给你看另外一个字是这个胯，就是一个脚的来源。So you can just look at this for now and believe me that it's a foot. I will show you another character that's more interesting later.
师，我有一个问题，
好，
可以画画吗？
可以。
我发现有一些字，好像刚才老师举的例子，有这样子的情况，这个是有代表什么意思？
这个
哦，这个对，这个在上面，这个很难说，有的人说，这个不知道，这个单独的 在不同的地方有不同的意思。这个有的时候是四川的意思啊，这个对，这个是水，在这个字里面是水的意思。这个是四川的川的另外一个写法。But it depends on where you see it. In this case, it's the same character as 四川的川。
他就是想
如果是
说这个
巡视的巡呢？
这个
哦，这个字，
肺
这个字，对，这个肺，这个肺是我们很不容易说是什么意思。也许这个字因为不是常用的，所以我应该不写在这边了。
如果
这
是这个巡呢？
寻找的
巡
寻
视的巡，
巡
巡逻的巡。
对，如果是这个字，就是四川的川的来源，这个是一个水的来源。可是在这个下的来源是我们不会确定。So in the character you just wrote, it's the same origin as Sichuan, which means basically a large river,
嗯，
I think.
因为我的学生他在看到这个字的时候，一看到这个符号就很快就记住这个字，然后他问我
这个字会找到吗？这个字。
就不知道怎么解释了。
李子，你会查这个字吗？
哪个字？
就是这个结构，就三个这个。
那汉族的数据库里面可以查到。我看看。
这个是吧？
对。
现在要查。
对，这个是 if you 我看
这就是你关掉共享。
这个
对，就是
这个
啊，对。这样。
对。So if you look at this, you see Chuan, and it's usually a modification of Sichuan to Chuan.
嗯，
In most characters, it will have something to do with water.
这样吧。
哦，所以不是跟方向有关系的哦，是因为跟水有关系哈。
大部分的时候要看在什么地方，在这个肺里面的，可能是头发的意思，可是，在这个字我们不会知道，我们不会说，可是，在很多的别的字，这是跟四川是一样的来源。
哦，是水。
对。
哦，好的，谢谢老师。
好。这个
今天的课我发现是可能有一点太复杂，下一次可能做的比较简单的。
下一次。
这个怎么变成大的？这个字，这个蟹是一个 termite， 一个白蚁。第一个是，我们不要考虑第二个，我们看第一个。这个蟹，我们看第二个字是秘密的，可是第三个字就是蚂蚁，就是蟹，就是一个 termite， 一个白蚁的意思。So the character on the right is a complicated character, but I want to show you the components. It means termite, and a termite is in your house. So we have the component 穴，穴就是一个家。那个蚂蚁，在你的家里面的。然后第二个是蟹，你看那个左边的比较像一个蚂蚁，右边的不是 是一个古代的一个写法。然后第三个构件是念。The second component is actually a pictograph of an ant. The third component means 20. 20 means many. And so when you have one termite, you have many termites. And then the next component is bien, which sometimes it's written mi, which means rice, and sometimes it's written bien. Basically, rice looks like termite eggs, and so it can represent the eggs. 对，这个字。
我给你拿着啊。给你拿这个字
这个下面，看下面这个字。
啊，好，
对。
好的。
Yeah. So this is an insect, a termite. 我给你看一些字。这个有3个字，中间的是米，中间的是 rice, and if you look at the ancient character, the ancient character for rice looks like this. And you can see it's like a stalk with rice kernels on both sides. Then it becomes like this one, no, this one. But sometimes在古代的中国，那个米有的时候里面有石头，这个石头是要丢掉，这个上面这个跟米不一样，是上面有这个垢，这个是上面有这个部分，这个是要丢掉的东西，这个是米里面的石头，这个也是有的时候是大便的意思，可是这个要丢掉的。So this part here, it's like a me. In ancient China, when they got the rice, it often had rocks in it. And so they have to sort out the rocks and throw them away. These rocks were garbage. And it also is the same character as shit. It's something you want to throw away. But note this character here and this character here, they're very similar. The character on the left and the character on the right are very similar. This character means to pick. And 上面你有看一个手，上面有一个木。And if you look at characters very carefully, you'll see a difference. There's cai and bien. Bien, there's always something related to something you want to throw away, something you don't want. But if you see the hand on the top, it's related to cai. It means to pick something. It's something you do want. 所以你可以学这个，我觉得这个字很有意思。所以你的家里面学有20个，这是很多的那个蟹，这是白蚁，然后那个蜜就是他们的单子。他们鲜花，他们把那个上面的那个家庭那个血，他们留下来，然后上面他们放一个标音符号，读切。所以现在看那个 现代的简体字很难说是什么来源。The simplified character, they retained the house part, and on the bottom they put a phonetic ch. So it's pretty the simplified character is pretty meaningless. That's you go.
什么？对，啊，先共享屏幕。
所以我现在去最后一个字，等一会儿。对，现在我去最后一个字，因为那个文字这个很简单的，这个是龙。然后我们可以慢慢看这个龙跟风的来源。现在的简体字，跟龙好像完全没有关系，可是真的有关系。我们看一个一个的演变到那个繁体字，然后转体字，然后经文、甲骨文。经文跟甲骨文，我们可以看得出来是一个蛇，这个蛇有一个嘴巴，可是它的头上有什么东西，我们不知道。有的人以为这个是一个 crown， 或是一个帽子，或者什么，我不相信，我想这是王字。We can see the character for dragon. We can see it step by step as it goes back. The modern simplified character is so distorted, it's nearly impossible to trace back, but I colorized it. So if you look at this long enough, you should be able to see the relation. You have the traditional character, and this dragon, or this snake, at some point, it got some scales. And the ancient character has something on top of its head. 这个是什么东西？有的人以为是一个帽子，我不相信是一个帽子，我想是王字。我们看那个风，风是一个 male phoenix， 这个是龙是蛇的国王，蛇的王字。风是鸟的王，他们的头上两个都有这个东西。我想是一个王。我给你看这个怎么？现在看 ，okay. So this is Wang. It means king, and in ancient China, the king was the son of heaven, Tianzi. So I believe the original interpretation, 中间你有一个人，一个大，上面是天，下面是地。可是如果你翻过来，这个是那个龙的上面的东西。我想这个是王的倒过来。So that's about it for today. So let's talk about characters and stuff. We have any questions? Does anybody want to see any the character or discuss any of the characters, or should we discuss something else? 今天我说的这个视频可能是有一点太复杂，可能是太多的字，可是都是跟蛇有关系的。So somebody ask some questions. Somebody tell me something. What did you learn this week about Chinese characters? What did you learn this class about Chinese characters? 你们可以问问题吗？可以问我说话哈。你们都睡觉吗？
没有，
没有老师。
很好，很好。
没有老师。
有的时候我准备我的课，因为这个是我第一次教汉字的来源，所以有的时候可能太复杂，有的时候可能太简单的。下一次我的视频可能比较简单一点。有没有问题或是意见，或是要分析什么其他的汉字？要不要讲现在的生活情况下，或是你们有多少个人来过中国？
没来过。
没有来过。
我来过。
你来过。因为你们的汉语的水平都是不错，所以你们在国外学汉语有很多的，大概有一部分的是，有很多的中国朋友。So, what's the best way to learn Chinese? Learn to read and write Chinese.
老师可以再说一遍吗？
可以。那个，现在我们有几分钟
5分钟。
现在我们有5分钟。我都是可能我讲话太多，我怕你们都会睡觉，或是觉得太无聊，或是什么，所以现在
没有老师，其实
现在
我们学的是太多的汉字，所以我们也不知道要问什么，因为这个是如果对我来说，这个是新的知识，我从来没有学过古文字，所以我也不知道要问什么。
对，这个是因为汉字有非常多，所以学汉字不容易。我就要说很多的汉字的故事，可是如果我说太多的故事，你都会忘记了，都会盲目的想睡觉。可是有很多的汉字，今天我说的很多的汉字跟蛇有关系的。我们都要思考古代的中国人是什么样子。
我有一个问题。
有什么问题？
说到蛇这个话题，它也是的，也一样的，也。
你再说一次。你的声音我听不到。
可以打字。
你可以打字吗？
这样清楚吗，老师？
现在比较清楚，对对。
刚才您说蛇不是有很多形状吗？其中也一样的也其实也是蛇，对吧？
对。
那我觉得像你我他的他加了一个单人旁，那么他这个字其实挺有意思的，表示人都像蛇一样吗？还是怎么样？可是他的声音也没有什么影响啊。
我这个它原来的它是一个动物的它 it， 这是一个蛇，是它变成一个标音符号。So the original ta was meant it, not him or her. But 因为人家说话，他也是 him 或是 her， 所以他们加一个人字旁，然后右边的他，人跟蛇没有关系， 可是这个旁边的它就是一个标音符号。So the original ta referred to a snake. But when people spoke Chinese, it could also mean a person, either a woman or a man. So they added a person, renzipang, and then the ta just became a phonetic only. So it doesn't actually mean that people are snakes. It means that the word ta is pronounced like the snake. 明白吗？同意吗？
中文的讲义，中文在讲义。
所以这个原来的这个它，这个单独的字，它是一个蛇，就是说一个动物的它，不是代表人的它。人他们以前的时候是说七，然后因为方言的，所以中国人开始说他也是代表一个女的或是一个男的，所以他们发生一个新的字，就是一个哪一个七？
其中的其。
对。好，他们发明一个新的字，这是一个人字旁的他，可是那个他跟蛇没有关系，蛇这个他就是蛇是一个标音符号，明白吗？喂 Are you still there？
在的，只是我的这个麦有时候有问题。谢谢老师。
好。然后他们这个原来的应该是他，可是它变成也。So originally 2,000 years ago it was ta, but it became ye, which is actually wrong. But close. 我现在是9点50分钟。我们有没有人有问题或是要说话？如果没有，我们下课。
没有老师。
老师，谢谢老师。